the race to replace Boris Johnson is getting spicy, as my daughter would say. But is Britain going to get the leader it deserves? Johnson has been forced by his own MPs to quit as leader of the Conservative Party and therefore as Prime Minister because he embarrassed them by telling too many untruths. But who in the people left in the campaign to replace him in a vote of MPs and members would actually be better? The latest debate of the two frontrunners, the former Chancellor Rishi Sunak and Foreign Minister Liz Truss, at each other's throats.
You have raised taxes to the highest level in 70 years. The fact is that raising taxes at this moment will choke off economic growth.
But I'd love to stand here. I'd love to stand here and say, look, I'll cut this tax, that tax and another tax, and it will all be OK. This something-for-nothing economics isn't conservative, it's socialism.
Meanwhile, the most genuine Conservative left in the race, Kemi Badenoch, unfortunately, I think she's probably too inexperienced as yet. The time came a bit too early. She whacked another front-runner, Penny Mordaunt, for being too woke as her predecessor as Equalities Minister, having agreed to transgender people self-identifying to qualify for help.
I didn't work with Penny, but my understanding was that the previous minister who had done the role had wanted a self-ID. And that was something that I reversed with Liz.
That's not correct, and this will all be on record in government.
It is on record.
It all seems a bit of a nightmare. We won't know who wins until the last ballot of the membership is in September. Before then, the Conservative MPs have got to winnow the list down to 2. And unfortunately, they'll probably choose 2 establishment candidates and not that nice Kemi Badenoch. That's unfortunate. But that's the way the world is, I'm afraid. But we're going to be joined in a second by Brendan O'Neill, political editor of the online magazine Spike, who's been a big Boris Johnson fan and can understand why the poor man is now thrown out without anyone good to replace him. Brendan O'Neill, thank you for your time. What do you make of this leadership contest? Are you actually going to get someone better than Boris?
You know what? I don't think we are. And I think people are starting to wonder if it was a mistake to get rid of Boris in the way that we did, in the way that the media did largely, and of course the anti-Boris backstabbers in the Tory party itself. I think there are quite a few people out there now watching this race, which is heating up a bit, but it still remains pretty wooden, a little bit uninspiring. It doesn't quite have the magic and the sparkle that Boris had in 2019 when he went out to the public and said, you can trust me, I'll get Brexit done. I won't treat you like the rest of the establishment has treated you. So I think there are quite a few people now saying, have we done the right thing? Are we now going to go back to boring cardboard politics? And that worries a lot of people.
Yes, and particularly when, like I say, you know, Kemi Badenoch is the most genuine sort of Conservative there, seems to be too inexperienced. This seems to have come before her time, leading, you know, I mean, really, who's going to be, you know, awake for him? But boy, you mentioned, you know, regret perhaps about Boris having to go or being thrown out. They were all keen, these candidates, to put some distance between themselves and the man who's still their Prime Minister. Have a listen to this.
Who here would be happy to have Boris Johnson in their cabinet? Please raise your hands.
The men and women hoping to be the next Prime Minister.
Not a single person.
Boy, that's very sad. Brendan, who's your favourite in the race?
My favourite is easily Kemi Badenoch. I think she's got the most going for her. She's the bravest of them all. She is not only does she understand Brexit and the importance of sovereignty, but she's also critical of net zero, which she describes as a form of unilateral economic disarmament, which I think is a very good way to describe net zero policies. She's also willing to fight the culture wars, and she's willing to take on wokeness. She knows what a woman is, which, believe it or not, is quite rare in British politics at the moment. And I think she would connect with ordinary people in a way that someone like Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak probably wouldn't, because they're a bit stiff and they're a bit kind of out of touch. So Kemi Badenoch, in my view, should be the next Prime Minister, and that would be good for the country.
Yeah, but you wait, you know, the establishment MPs, they're first going to make sure, I think, that she won't get the chance to actually go to the Conservative Party members, you know, the final 2. Brendan, you know, Britain's having a heat wave. All right, it's a high, you know, it's a heat wave. But the way it's being described, especially by the media left, it's like, oh, it's the end of the world. It's the first ever red heat warning. It's too dangerous to go outside. Thousands of people could die. What on earth is going on, Brennan? And are you yourself in mortal danger? Do I need to send over a package of ice cubes or something?
Well, I hope not, but it is very, very hot. I went out this morning at 7:30 in the morning and it was already hot. And it's predicted that today it could get up to 40 degrees, which we've never had in this country. So it is unusual. But the fear-mongering is, in my view, psychotic. It really is out of control. The idea that it's going to kill loads of people and you must stay indoors and it's a real danger to your health. We're not allowed to enjoy anything these days without fear-mongering finger-waggers telling us to be careful. But I think the greatest revelation is that this heat wave has shown just how religious and millenarian environmentalism has become, because they're now talking about it as a sign of the end of the world. You know, we're bringing on fire and floods and heat waves upon ourselves with our sinful, polluting behavior. And we have to make amends and make sacrifices to the gods of climate change if we want the weather to get cooler again. There's a real medieval undertone to lots of the green hysteria about this heat wave. And I think it's exposed just how regressive and backward environmentalism has now become.
It really is so extraordinary. It does seem like an earth-worshipping cult. Brendan, I talked last week a lot about Telford, a town in Britain where, once again, there was a rape gang, a gang of largely ethnic Pakistani men who'd been abusing 1,000 children, up to 1,000 children for years, and police didn't take action at times for fear of seeming racist. How often does this have to happen?
Well, that's the question a lot of people are asking themselves. It's happened a lot around the country in different towns. As you say, the current discussion is about Telford in the Midlands, where over a period of decades, 1,000 largely white working class girls were abused and raped by grooming gangs, many of whom were from Muslim Asian backgrounds. It's a really deep problem that we have. And even worse is our unwillingness to grapple with it and to talk honestly about it. And this new report about Telford says that the gangs were emboldened by the authorities' reluctance to act. And the authorities were reluctant to act because they were nervous about issues of race and racism and Islamophobia. So political correctness is not only annoying, it is dangerous. It has put young girls' lives and dignity at risk. That's what the authorities are now willing to do to uphold politically correct ideology. And I think that's a terrible shame.
It is so shocking. Brendan and Neil, thank you so much for your time.